You are welcome to another edition of online tutorial program organized by Lankotheory Educational Services Limited for A-Level and Post UTME classes. In today's government class, we shall be looking at separation of power, as well as checks and balance. Starting with separation of power. Separation of power connotes division of power, particularly between and among the organs of government. Remember, in one of our previous classes, we examined the three organs of government to include the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Now, our topic on separation of power is trying to tell us that power must be separated between and among these three organs of government. That is, one person should not possess these three powers. The reason is this: if one person possesses these three powers, then it's going to bring about arbitrary use of power. That is tyranny. And if there is tyranny in town, we all know what is likely to become of that society. In the words of Thomas Hobbes, the lives of the people in that society becomes brutish, nasty, solitary, ugly, poor, and short. That is, it becomes a lawless society. So that is what we are trying to examine in separation of power. The idea of separation of power was first conceived by a French scholar by name Jean Bodin in the 16th century. Jean Bodin was of the opinion that separation of power must exist in the land, and the prince of the land must not be the one to implement the law, to make the law, and interpret the law. That is, the interpretation, implementation, and the making of the law in every society must be left in different hands. What Jean Bodin is trying to say is that while the executive is the one implementing the law, the legislature should be known for lawmaking, while the judiciary should be known for interpretation of the law. But by the words of Jean Bodin, it was not clear, because Jean Bodin only used the word "it must not be left in the prince of the land, making the law, interpreting the law, and implementing the law." But the idea was further popularized by Baron de Montesquieu. In 1748, in his book, The Spirit of the Law, when he was stating that separation of power connotes the division of power between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. That is, while the executive will be known for the implementation of the law, the legislature should be known for lawmaking, and the judiciary should be known for interpretation of the law. That shows separation of power. So, in simple words, it connotes division of power between and among the organs of government, in such a way that it will not bring about arbitrary use of power. And that is the essence of what both Jean Bodin and Baron de Montesquieu are trying to state. So in that wise, the whole essence of separation of power is to prevent arbitrary use of power in every state, thereby making each organs of government independent within their own sphere of government. But the question we normally ask is, can there be an absolute separation of power? This question cannot be answered until we examine the next topic, which is checks and balance. It is when checks and balances is examined that we cannot answer whether there is absolute separation of power or not, or whether separation of power can be watertight or not. What I mean by water tight is whether this one can be absolutely independent from this. That is, whether the executive can be absolutely independent from the legislature, and the legislature can be absolutely independent from the judiciary. This question can be answered by checks and balance. What then is checks and balance? Checks and balance system. Before we proceed, I said earlier that this online tutorial program was brought to you by Lankotheory Educational Services Limited. The number is displayed on the board for further inquiries. Registration for A-level programs, both JUPEP and IGMB, is currently ongoing, as well as for Post UTME classes. You can visit their website for online registration or call their numbers, as well as you can equally contact them via their mail for inquiries on the steps or procedure for registration. Checks and balance. Checks and balance implies a situation where one organ of government serves as a watchdog on the other organ of government to prevent arbitrary use of power. The key word here is watchdog. This means that one organ of government, the executive, is checking on the legislature, or the legislature can equally check on the judiciary, and the judiciary can equally check on the two of them, and the two of them can equally check on the judiciary. This is what we mean by checks and balance system, a situation where one organ of government serves as a watchdog on the other organ of government to prevent arbitrary use of power. Like I said earlier, the question whether there can be watertight separation of power or not is this: whether this one can be absolutely independent without interfering into the affairs of this. The question is no. Because in the words of Lord Acting, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely. If this one is left alone to carry out its functions without meddling with the affairs of this, there is likely to be chaos in the society, because this one is making law for this one to implement, and this one is equally interpreting the law implemented by the executive. So they need the same way they need to work independently, the same way they need to work checking the affairs of each other. If not, there is likely to be chaos in the society. Imagine a society where the judiciary is acting without recourse or reference to the laws made by the legislature. Then there is likelihood of chaos in that society, because such a society will be anarchical in nature. So the whole essence of the principle of checks and balance system is to prevent arbitrary use of power in the society, is to avoid a situation where one organ of government becomes a tyrannical government in that society. So in other words, the executive have their ways of checking on the legislature. The legislature have its way of checking on the judiciary, and the judiciary can equally check on the two of them. A very good example of a way the executive can check on the legislature is by veto power. We all know that lawmaking is the primary responsibility of the legislature. Now, if the legislature makes law, before such a law can become law, at that stage, that law is called a bill. And it requires the assent of the president or the head of the executive, i.e. the governor at the state level, before such a bill can become a law. Now, if the president or the governor refuses to sign such bill, that power of refusal to sign such bill into law is called veto power. And this is normally exercised where the president or the governor believes that that power is not good enough for a state or a country at large. We can recollect when the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, refused to sign into law the fourth alteration to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on his so-called 13 grounds of exercising his veto power, he refused to sign that bill into law. That is exercising his veto power. It's a very good way of checking on the legislature. The same way the executive can check on the legislature can equally check on the executive. A very good example is two-thirds majority mechanism. For example, if they send this bill to the president or the governor and he refuses to sign exercising his veto power mechanism, the legislature, i.e. the National Assembly or the State House of Assembly, can use their two-thirds majority mechanism, exercising it over that law, and it automatically becomes a law in our society. But most times, they find it hard to exercise two-thirds majority mechanism because they don't always meet up with the requirement of the law. Because what the law is saying is, out of the 109 members of the Senate, two-thirds majority of the 109 must be present before that bill can be vetoed into law. But most times, we don't always have the required number. And that is a reason why the fourth alteration to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 cited earlier was not vetoed into law up to today. Another way the judiciary can equally check on the two of them is by judicial review. The judicial review is an exclusive power of the judiciary, which it has to nullify or ratify an action which is either legal or illegal. If an action is legal, the judiciary has the power to review that action and to look inward into that action whether it is legal. When it comes to the executive, if the president takes a step that to Nigerians it is illegal, it is ultra vires. Ultra vires means beyond his powers. Then you can approach the judiciary to nullify that step taken by the president. The same thing if the legislature makes a law and you believe this law does not follow the procedure laid down by the 1999 Constitution, then you can approach the court for their power of judicial review to nullify that law. This happened in 1979 when the Revenue Allocation Formula Act of 1979 was not enacted in such a way that it consisted with the provisions of the 1979 Constitution. The Attorney General of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was challenged by Attorney General of Abia State and others, stating that the provisions of this law was illegal, ultra vires, null and void, and to that extent, the court nullified the Revenue Allocation Formula Act of 1999 because it is not in line with the provisions of the 1979 Constitution. Let me remind you at this point that this online tutorial class was brought to you by Lankotheory Educational Services Limited. The number is displayed on board for further inquiries. Like I said earlier, our A-level programs are currently on for registration. You can call the number for inquiries and the procedure for registration, and you can equally register online via our website. The website of the organization is displayed on the screen for immediate contacts. We have come to the end of today's class. Meanwhile, in our next class, we'll be looking at election. Thank you very much for listening and have a nice day.